personally, I've been having a lot of these conversations across multiple agencies as people are curious as they hear AI and a lot of these tools that are coming up, like what happened, like why is this such a big deal now? So we're gonna unravel a lot of this, right? So that the point of hopefully that you may take away from this is enough understanding of like what we understand of like what AI is doing right now around us and like what can we do, right? And is this really a tipping point for the web? I'm Nikhil Deshpande. I'm Chief Digital Officer, and I've worked with most of you all personally, or definitely with your agencies. And I'm really proud to be, serving with you for our constituents and making sure that our end users, our constituents, our citizens have access to state information and services. So, AI really has been such a conversation around, and I mean, I always find myself talking to, at least 2 or 3 people every day about a certain different aspect of AI. And that includes like my coworkers, my friends, my counterparts from other states, everybody, maybe, anyone who knows that I have to do something with technology, including Uber drivers, there is always this curiosity of like how AI is going to affect me, right? So like we have been, thinking about this, toying with this idea of artificial intelligence, about machines, about, how we can create something, we can develop something that, is supposed to help us, but can it actually rise to compete with us, right? So we seem to be coming to that point of like actually having that conversation in reality, where we are slowly seeing some use cases around where like AI is becoming very mature. So let's jump into this and we'll see how and where we can actually partner with AI and be a better resource, be a better contributor to the job that we already do. So we have been working with AI, with machines, to the point where, robotic processes were put in place to do a lot of human repetitive tasks, where it became almost impossible for machines to understand or to identify if a particular session is being conducted by a robot or is conducted by a human. So back in the 1960s, computer scientists came up with this term, completely automated public Turing test, to tell computers and humans apart, right? Or in today's day, as we understand it, as CAPTCHA. So this was really kind of like a thing that was been built through all these decades. And as you all remember, how CAPTCHA started out, which was more around like these, distorted letters and words, and you have to type it in just to make sure that it is actually a human, because a machine, a computer, was not able to read this as much as a human would. But then basically CAPTCHA was relaunched as reCAPTCHA, and reCAPTCHA, after Google bought it, Google started serving up some of these Google Street images and asking us to identify traffic lights or crosswalks, right? So that was like unknowingly us interacting with machine learning, interacting with AI, because we were actually telling AI, or we were telling the machine, this is what a traffic light looks like, this is what a crosswalk looks like, right? So unknowingly, through our interactions, we were actually building up possibly, the next generation of self-driven cars, right? So we have been through this long process of making sure that the technology really advances and matures. So exactly what happened now, right? So to understand that, we have to first understand like how much we interact with AI. So one of the things that I can tell you is like from your waking hour till you sleep, I think, you pretty much interact with AI all through the day. If you're using your phone, right from like using your phone to unlock, using your face. So for example, if you're an iPhone user and you use your Face ID to unlock, iPhone sends like some 30,000 infrared signals to map your face in 3D, and it compares that with the image it stored as your face, and then it lets you in. Now, this happens in a fraction of a second, so it's very hard for us to realize what's happening, but that is indeed AI, right? Like that is not a manual process. And then, of course, once you kind of get into the apps, like, of course, they know so much about you, so they can start predicting what you're going to be saying, right? So AI, we are surrounded by AI. But really what happened as far as the tipping point is depicted in this chart. And I love this chart because this is something that shows just right from the year 2000 as machine learning started advancing. This chart shows a total of 5 domains: handwriting recognition, speech recognition, image recognition, reading comprehension, and language understanding. As you can see, they start the overall machine learning at a -100, and it compares it with a human performance, which is benchmarked at 0, which is the top line, right? So back in the 2000, when handwriting recognition or speech recognition or image recognition started, it slowly started inching up all the way to where now, if the same task is conducted between a machine and a human, around 2015, the machines were as good as humans. But as you can see, somewhere around 2020 and a little after that, the machines started actually conducting those tasks way better than humans did, right? And that is kind of like where the tipping point came, and essentially where we have heard so much buzz about AI is really the generative AI version of AI. Now, AI is a pretty large domain, but so far we have been using AI algorithms to look through massive data sets and massive information where a human component may take a long time to maybe analyze, draw patterns. But with AI, it was a lot faster to do that. It was a lot faster to analyze something, to assess something, to predict something. Where we are now is generative AI. So in the past, AI was not known to be creative. AI was not known to be able to generate things based on the information that they already knew, but that has changed today. Now from what we see is generative AI is able to write text for us, create images for us. It can generate audio for us, and it can also generate video for us, right? So when you talk about ChatGPT, that's one of the products which is based on this generative AI model that can actually write and create text for us, which is so succinctly written that it almost feels like it is written by a human professional. Same thing with the company that ChatGPT is offered by, called OpenAI. They have another image tool called DALL-E, and now they have a second version of that can create images based on the prompt that you've served. You also have tools that can generate audios. One of my favorite is Forever Audio, Forever Voice, where you can actually pick the voice of somebody that we know, we love, somebody who doesn't even need to be living. I heard Steve Jobs talk about COVID-19. Now, obviously, he's passed away a long time before COVID-19 happened, but they have constructed Steve Jobs' voice, and now you can feed text and that audio is generated in such a way that you cannot imagine that this is not a person talking. And same thing with video. You can have video generated images of people that really never existed, but you can use them as models to be able to render, say, your training or do a little speech. So we are really kind of getting into a very different territory of AI. And just to kind of give you, I'm not going to spend too much time about any technical conversations, but just to give you an idea, the generative AI really, is based on large language models. So it basically what it has done, it has skimmed through, it has learned, it has digested all the human generated text. At least at this point, it is English text, where the OpenAI has created their own large language models. Think of this as like a bunch of like neural networks, where these are a set of algorithms that are just going and scanning everything and learning and creating these models. And when you add another set of a generative pre-trained transformer, which is also known as a GPT on top of it. This is a pre-trained version of text. It basically, what it does is it really starts acting like a human. So essentially what happens from a human experience perspective is there is a open text format input that goes into a language model, which gets created and sent as a text output back to a human. Now, this happens so naturally, and this can also happen based on what your prompt is, as it is called. It almost feels like you're either talking to a friend or talking to a mentor or talking to someone who knows a lot. But it's not just about the fact that they know a lot, but they also know the way of communicating and explaining a certain concept to you, right? So as everyone may have heard, ChatGPT right now, it's one of like the most successful known product that is based on generative AI. And this is, if you basically think about ChatGPT's rise to success, Netflix took 10 years to get 100 million users. Similarly, Google Translate took like somewhere around 6 years, and Instagram took about a little under 4 years. TikTok, took about like a little under a year, but ChatGPT just took 2 months to have 100 million users using it. And the beauty of that is that it is so easy. Now, where AI and all of these complicated systems used to be something, or were perceived to be something that would run in large data centers and also, be consumed by organizations who had the capital to do it. Now, suddenly these technologies are heavily democratized and, are easily available for anyone who has an internet connection and has a browser. Right, so it's really easy for anyone now to start using ChatGPT or any other products. Now, I say that with a caveat where, just because it is easy, you have to check with your organization and the security policy and the overall, policy if your organization has for using ChatGPT, because there have been instances where people have fed really sensitive information into ChatGPT and expose some of like their organization's intellectual property, and that is obviously not okay. So we have to really kind of use it responsibly. But if you haven't had the chance to play with ChatGPT or to experience what it is, this is what it looks like. It basically starts you off with some examples. It talks about some capabilities and some limitations. One thing to understand specifically about ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is basically severed connection from the internet late in 2021, right? So anything that has happened in 2022 or 23, ChatGPT really doesn't know about it. But anything before that, ChatGPT knows everything. And, typically from like a concepts perspective, if you were to ask ChatGPT, explain to me what string theory is, or explain to me, how do I bake a peach cobbler? It can do a great job by explaining to you everything. Now, this is ChatGPT on the website. They use ChatGPT 3. There is a ChatGPT 4, which is a paid version. I think it's like $20 a month. And it's actually quite impressive because it's multimodal, where you can take picture of what's in your refrigerator and it can actually spin up some recipes for you. So ChatGPT generates text, and you can say the same thing about image generation. As you can see up here, the timeline of generating images has also really matured through the years. Like in 2014, you could see the face that has been generated. So one thing to know is like all of these images are AI generated. These are not real people. But by 2022, now image programs like DALL-E can create such realistic looking images that it's almost impossible to tell an image that's generated by AI as opposed to an image that is real, right? So for example, DALL-E responds to generating images by taking in prompts. So in here, the basic prompt was teddy bears working on new AI research underwater with 1990s technology. This is just a prompt fed to DALL-E 2, and this is the image that DALL-E has created. So as you can see, generating images and generating content has come to a completely different level. We go back again to what we do, which is we serve our constituents. How do we use this to our benefit, right? So where someone comes in and someone can actually interact with us, use our services from in person to mail to calling us using the call centers, on using our online apps on either the computer or a phone, interacting with us on social channels, or interacting with us on something like a chatbot or a voice assistant. There are so many ways that we can use responsibly the strength of AI. So let's see, essentially, the way that things, as you know, probably in our organizations are structured, that someone looking at these channels from the outside, they see, all right, I go in there, I conduct my transaction, but there is a process behind that. And similarly for any of these channels, right, from the extreme right in person to the extreme left, absolute digital dynamic, there is a certain process, there is a certain script that feeds into this process. And at any point, AI can really be beneficial. One thing that AI really can help us is in an AI augmented workforce, right? Where we have a lot of opportunity where we can use AI in a way that, otherwise it would take a lot of time for us to either spend in responding to someone or to help them with a question they have asked. And this is really, helping us do our jobs a lot faster, do our jobs a lot better. So just to give you a few examples of that, how I'm already seeing AI being, kind of implemented, or at least like pitched across organizations, is that, you get AI tools now that actually write you press releases. I'm not at all advocating that you just copy and paste it and publish what AI has produced, but it gives you a really good starting point. And, you have apps like OpenCity, or, you could even like use ChatGPT. Honestly, if you just go to ChatGPT and add a prompt that says, write me a press release announcing that the state of Georgia has a new AI regulation policy. ChatGPT will write it for you, and it might not be to the point that you want that needs to be published, but it's a really good starting point. And this is where AI is going to be a game changer for any point of like where we are. So be it in communications, AI has a huge set of tools for developers. AI has a huge set of tools for, pretty much any domain that you look in an organization. AI can help you with it, right? AI can obviously generate content for you. AI can write your emails for you. I mean, it doesn't send out automatically emails for you, which is a good thing. But the point is, like, it takes you to the point of where you can just be the curator rather than be, constantly in a generating mode. And that is the beauty of generative AI, which is now really, like I said, it's commoditized to the level that we can very responsibly use across our organization. So just to kind of give you a glance at what the landscape of AI is, like, these are some of the top tools. I'm not even saying all the tools. These are some of the top rated tools across AI that can generate text, image, audio, coding, chatbots, video, machine learning platforms, search engines, gaming, data, right? So AI is really kind of like, getting into pretty much everything at this point. And it's going to be pretty hard to kind of tell at what point are we interacting with something that has 100% human contribution, or there is some sort of like an AI generation. And that's why a lot of states at this point are creating legislation, or at least putting a body in place to create a legislation that is going to be, something that is going to be creating guardrails for AI. Another thing that AI has created is AI tool to also help you guide in making sure that, this is something that was created for education, which is originality.ai. It's essentially a, content plagiarism detector. It makes sure that the AI content that is created, it has certain ways to tell if a certain AI that is generated or certain text that is generated by AI or is it generated by a human. Now, I should say this is pretty good as far as text is concerned, but for images, it is still not good, and it's really at this point very hard to tell the AI generated images from like the real images, because the way text is using LLMs and GPT. What images use is called as a generative adversarial network, or a GAN. And that actually basically just uses a lot of like noise around that it has collected in generating images, and it is very sophisticated. The other thing that OpenAI itself, the company, has created is a new AI classifier for indicating AI written text. So there are a lot of efforts being made across. The other thing that we can really kind of capitalize on these tools and these options is by creating AI augmented knowledge base. Imagine like every organization has so much institutional knowledge across, smeared across all the people that work there. And typically when we were talking about, say, something like a silver tsunami, where some of the workforce that is getting ready to retire, they retire and they take away so much knowledge with them. Now, of course, AI can never replace people. AI should not be replacing people. And I'm a firm believer that, AI really should be used in augmenting what we do best, so we can do what we do better than what we already are doing. But, what AI can really do is, imagine if each of us at any point have a personal bot, right, that knows exactly what we do, knows exactly what's happening in our work life, and we can ideate with it. We can ask questions. We can communicate with it. It can help us with some data-driven policies. It can help with, if there's like a customer service thing needed. So, an augmented knowledge base, and what AI can actually help an organization. AI can really kind of come from soup to nuts. It really can help, but the way to get it to do is where AI with the new rise has brought up a lot of these newer terms like prompt engineering, if you have heard. Because since it knows so much, the key is to ask the right thing so that it can tell you the right answer, right? And that's where the prompting comes in. And if you just do like a very light Google search, if you're still not tinkering with ChatGPT, and get some starting prompts, you can really, my kids play with ChatGPT quite a bit, and they asked ChatGPT to do many things like write a poem about a coconut, or write a poem about a ceiling fan. And I was actually surprised at how well it rendered and wrote. So you can even take large paragraphs of text and copy paste it into ChatGPT and say, please, explain all of this to me in one short paragraph. And ChatGPT does wonders. So there's a lot of like content generation and curation that, we can be doing that can save us so much time at this point, because we can lean on these tools. And to be perfectly honest, this is a part of this talk I had also created for a different conference. And just from that to today, GovTalks, these are some of the tools that are announced. So Salesforce getting into this with Einstein GPT. Microsoft is now announcing Copilot for O365. So think about the return of the Clippy. Midjourney, another image generating AI. There is a new Auto GPT. So for larger tasks, what Auto GPT does is it takes your prompt and it breaks down into multiple tasks, and every task takes hours to complete, because it does like such a thorough job, as opposed to say ChatGPT that just like spins something out within seconds. Amazon's already announcing a Bedrock as a platform for all these AI tools. Microsoft has a Bing chat that's now open to everybody. IBM is announcing Watson X. So so there are. I can just keep going, and I'm pretty sure like by the time we're done with this talk, there are going to be more tools out there. So what's changed now? So if you remember, like Web 1.0 was just like all consumption. You go to a series of websites, you read, you learn, and you're done. But Web 2.0 opened the doors of like two-way communication. And with Web 3.0, I'm not going to focus so much on like the Bitcoins and the cryptocurrency or the decentralized web. I'm going to talk more about what I feel like this is now the generative web, where going forward, people might not be really going, as much as they are today to, Google or other search engines. So the VP of design for Microsoft, recently talked about the changing landscape, and she wondered, are we in the post-search experience? So if we truly are in a post-search experience, and that might not mean the end of search, but it may mean that people have other avenues to search for information. So how does that change what we do? And in the rest of some of the other talks, you're going to see where people are going to talk about the content that you generate, how you should be still working on content and giving it importance. Another thing is that, like, I personally, and maybe you may have, but I have not seen Google advertising its own products so much. And this is on LinkedIn. And, usually people used to have Google ads off and on here and there, but now they're really, trying to push their search. They also have something called as Baird AI as an option, which is in competition with ChatGPT, but they don't want to cannibalize their own search. So they have both options, as similar to Bing, who has actually used ChatGPT and is offering Bing it on the Bing search if you use their browser. So, the landscape's changing quite a bit, right? So where we assume that people either go to our websites or people go to Google or search engines and then they're sent to websites, that may change. But what will not change is that we will still have the need to create content, to create information, because as much as like we might not hold the monopoly on having the front door to information, we still are responsible for creating the information, right? So we can use this generative AI to our advantage quite a bit. And as we have seen before, we can use it for content generation and curation. And it really saves us time. It really is something that will, propel us to do better things a lot faster. The second is, you can actually create personalized, humanized communication, because this is the aspect of generative AI, which was lacking in the previous versions of AI, where now it can actually act, it can actually create content as if it is created by humans. And that again, kind of like helps us to have our communication, our information catered in a way that we serve with good intent. The third is the rise of, we already have seen virtual assistants and chatbots, but now with the generative aspect of it, suddenly we don't have to create a second repository for chatbots. We don't have to have, something that we update on a website and also then go and update in our chatbot repository. The chatbot can just start reading off the website, and not just reading off the website, but it can actually generate information. It can generate a response based on the information on the website. And through the, IV talk, you will get a glance of, what an amazing next generation chatbot tool can do. And fourth, you can also rely on language translation and accessibility. You can definitely be way more accessible. You can open up your information because AI can do a lot of that, translating and making sure it reaches everyone without having that human effort in it. But as there are opportunities and things that help us, there are also some of the pitfalls of AI that we have to be careful about. The first thing is plagiarism, right? Because if AI is generating something, it is generating that based off something that it has learned. So, it's never a good idea to just copy and paste something off the likes of ChatGPT. it's a great start. It's a starting point, but it has to have some human intervention in it. So plagiarism is a big deal. And, I would never recommend anyone using these tools as is and immediately publishing content created out of that. The second thing is that, these tools are not accurate. I mean, ChatGPT, as awesome it is and as confidently it creates information, it is not always accurate because it feeds off all these different data. There's trillions of terabytes of data sets across that it has consumed, and not all that data is actually right. I mean, there's a lot of disinformation out there, or just a lot of irrelevant information or obsolete information. So what it's called is AI hallucinations. So if it's using a wrong set of information, but still creating information for you, creating a response for you that feels confident, but it's not right, it's an AI hallucination. So that is definitely a pitfall. So let it create it, but it's your job to fact check it. There is also a huge bias transfer because it has built upon human models and human text. All that bias has been internalized by these AI models. So that is a huge, bias issue. So again, I always advocate, always have that human layer of interference before you publish something right out of AI. And the last, not the least, but ethics. And, there are so many things that, you have to make sure that people understand that this is created by not a human, or they are chatting with a bot. And, because ChatGPT is known to, and I'm just using ChatGPT as an example, but, generative AI is now known to respond with level of emotions. A lot of people, suddenly we are seeing, reading about where people are actually drawn and getting addicted to chatting and, just essentially having that conversation, feeling like they're filling a void in, their life with AI, right? But at least they are aware of it. But if we are representing our, say, chatbot or any other AI that we are using, it is important for us to, be transparent about it. And this is just one of the examples of how ethically we should be using AI, right? So since this is our GovTalks kickoff, I cannot, end my talk, without actually saying what are we doing as far as our horizon is concerned for GovHub, right? So as you saw, we have been communicating about our Bloom updates with our design system. We are always making sure that we are updating our systems, and we are looking at how best to also use what the AI offerings are for our, maybe not the immediate horizon, but at a distant horizon. But it's been a while that we have had our designs in the production. So it was time for an update. It was also time for just scrubbing the code, making it better. So, we will be communicating with each of you as we start rolling the websites out. And then once we are done with our Bloom update, we are going to be applying a lot of those updates to Orchard, the design system, where we are hoping to work with agencies to also upgrade their application interfaces. So when, a constituent goes from a website to an application, they don't have a friction of an experience of, where they feel like they went from a modern experience to something that was not created, recently. We're also going to be working on a Drupal 10 upgrade. Again, this is something that might not be, anything that is intrusive to what you will be working on. But as and when we will communicate with, even the CK editor update, we will make sure that, you all are aware of the changes that we are making, and if we introduce anything that needs training, obviously we'll be rolling out training. In the meantime, if you all have any questions, if you have any, need for any support, our URL for the ticketing system, please go and, just create a ticket, and somebody from our team will be more than happy to work with you. So having said that, I hope I have at least created a basic I would say, platform for you all to understand all the other talks that are coming ahead, because there's some really cool, interesting talks based on like how AI is going to help us be better service providers, be better stewards of public information, and how we can serve our purpose of making sure we have an informed population for state information and services. So having said that, I think I will give it back. Actually, I'll open it to see if there are any questions. I don't know how I'm doing time-wise. Maybe Jasmine will come in.
Okay, wonderful job, Nikhil. You do have a couple questions.
Okay.
The first reads, do you believe in the future it could be possible for GTA to consider either in-house building or using a third-party AI-powered text or graphics content generation app for our agencies to use in marketing, communications, and or webmastering?
No, that's a great job. That's a really good question. We are always looking at how the emerging technology is going to help us, assist us. We currently are already, in the works of, and I don't want to disclose it too much without us testing it out, but we are already in the process of exploring some technology that may help agencies, but this is more from an agency to constituent perspective. At this point, I'm not quite aware of like GTA developing anything, but I think what I would say is we'll be more than happy to partner with any agency who is exploring to actually see what we can do collectively, because a lot of these tools that are being generated are created by these experts. I would rather us use those tools and use the third-party tools because they have a team that's dedicated to maintaining them and growing them. But we'll be more than happy to kind of partner with agencies to really kind of have that approach of like, what problem is this solving, and where can they go with this? And if that works for one agency, we'll be more than happy to advocate that tool for other agencies as well, so we can be aligned in what we are using.
Okay, thank you for that response. And the final question is this AI tech what some state websites use to answer chat questions from the public?
So it's kind of hard to tell just based on seeing the implementation of a tool. But I know that there are some newer chat tools that are going to be using the actual generative piece of AI, because recently ChatGPT also opened their APIs, right? So the key here is that like when we offer a chat tool, so for example, a certain agency offers a chat tool, we don't want to open that chat tool to mine information across the web, right? Like we want to make sure that that tool only mines all the information and the content that sits within the organization, be it on the website, be it in PDFs, be it somewhere else. So I think that's the key, where even if we start implementing something, that the aspect of future-facing AI tools will be the generation aspect of it, not more so much about that it may know everything and anything about the web. But the generative piece is great, because we know sometimes in certain agencies, our target audience has a certain reading level. So if we are able to tune that particular generation to, the generative aspect to that particular reading level, I think that is the beauty of having an AI tool that can, automatically serve information. And same thing for like call centers or anything, right? Where like if we don't have to have a human answer, and then anyone who's in the line can be immediately responded to their question, unless they really have something that needs human intervention. So there is definitely the aspect of where we have to use it very carefully, we have to use it very strategically.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nikhil. At this time, we will conclude the Q&A